Have you ever wanted to learn programming? Maybe you have heard of C++. It's a language behind powerful softwares like the Unreal Engine for games, high-frequency trading systems, and even parts of the Windows and the Mac operating system. It sounds intimidating, right? Well, what if I told you that in the next hour we could go from zero, that is absolutely no programming experience, to writing your very first C++ programs? Hi, my name is Jason Joshi. With years of teaching and industry experience in the field of computer science, I am here to be your guide to teach you the basics of C++. Now let's be realistic here. You won't become an expert game developer in 60 minutes. That is not possible. But my promise to you is this. By the end of this video, you will understand the fundamental building blocks of C++. You will have written several programs yourself, and you will have a solid foundation to continue your journey. We are going to build your confidence and show you that you can do this. Now, if you are ready, let's get started. Now, the first and most important step is our coding environment. Normally, this can take a while to set up by installing the tools and compilers or IDEs or whatever. You can do that in your local systems when you are doing it, but we are going to skip all that for today, and we are going to use a fantastic free online tool which is called Replit. Now you can just log into replit.com and create an account with your email ID, and Replit gives you a very nice interface. It gives you a compiler and a text editor right in your browser. So it is instant, it is free, and it will help us to just focus on learning C++. So as you come to Replit and create an account, this is the kind of screen that you will be greeted with. And in order to start, you can click on Create an App. And here we have a tab called Choose a Template. Click on Choose a Template. And here we can see that there is a C++ template here. So let's choose C++ template, and you can give any title that you want for your app. Let's just call it My First Programs and Create App. So as you can see, we get a template like this. We also have an AI assistant here. We'll not make use of the assistant. Let's close this. So here, this is the text editor where you can write your code, and you can see just like that you are ready to code. Now here on the left hand side, you see there is a button called Open Files. So if you click here, you can see the list of files that are created. So by default, a file called main.cpp is created for you. So this will be the place where all your files will live. And this is the place in the middle where you will be writing your code. And when we run the code, we will be able to see a console on the right hand side, which I will be showing you in a while. So let's just close this files tab for now, and let's see what this code means. So you see that Replit already greets you with a simple code over here, which is the Hello World program. Now this is the traditional first program for any language, Hello World. Now let's look at this line by line and try to understand what this means. Now here we have include IO stream. Now what does this mean? This is a preprocessor directive. Okay, don't be intimidated by that big word. Think of it like telling C++, hey, I need to use the library for input and output. That is for showing things on the screen. So IO stream stands for input output stream. So we are including the input output stream. Okay. Next we have something called int main. Now what does this int main mean? This is the main function. So whenever you are writing a C++ program, you will have a main function, which is like the most important or the main function that you are going to work with. Now every C++ program starts running from here. Now what is this int? Int stands for integer, and this means that this function should return an integer, that is a whole number, when it is done. Okay, we have a function called main. So you see a function is defined with its name here, which is main, followed by parenthesis, open and close parenthesis, and then another thing that you see here is the return type. We call this a return type of the function, which means that this function is going to return something, and that is going to be an integer value. Now you see this curly braces. Now within this curly braces, there is something written. Now the curly braces define the start and end of our function code. So if I bring it to the next line, it may become a little clearer. You see the function starts here with this curly braces and it ends here with this next curly brace. Alright, now we see inside this curly braces std, then you see a double colon, cout, and two angle brackets, and within that it is written hello world within double inverted commas or double quotations. And you see a /n over here and a semicolon. Let's break down all of these. Now, what is cout? What is std first of all? Std is the standard namespace where many of the basic features live. And you have to make use of this std in order to make use of the features like cout, cin, and so on. We'll come to all those in a while. Now, there is also a way to avoid writing this std all the time. That we will see as we move ahead. So for now, understand that it is a standard namespace where most of the features live. Now cout stands for character output or console output. Now this is used for printing something on the screen or for showing something on the screen. Now when you want to show something on the screen, you say cout and you have these angle brackets, two angle brackets, and notice where they are pointing. So you can see that it is pointing to the left or it is opening to the right. And then we include the text that we want to print or display on the screen, which is hello world. And you see the text is given in double inverted commas or double quotations. And the /n stands for new line. That means after printing this, come to a new line. And then you see there is a semicolon at the end. So in C++, most of the code must end with a semicolon. It is like a period or a full stop at the end of a sentence. Now this program looks almost complete, but as I told you in the beginning, this function called main has a return type integer. That means it should return an integer at the end. Now let me include that by writing return 0. Now what does this mean? This means that after this function executes, just return 0. Now what is the purpose of this? This tells the operating system that our program finished successfully. So a return value of 0 means that okay, everything went fine and it is good. Now let's hit the big green run button. Now if you hit this run button, you can see that on the right hand side we have this console or the output screen where hello world is printed. And that's it. You have run your first C++ program. Congratulations. Now you can try changing this text here, maybe try changing it to your name or something else, and hit that run button again and see how the output differs. Now get a feel for it. This is your program now. Alright, so I hope you're getting a hang of C++ programming now. So we will divide this entire video into a few sections. So the first section was your first program, which I believe you have understood now. Now, secondly, we will discuss variables and data types. Then we will see how to take user inputs and make use of operators. Then we will discuss conditional logic, and then we will discuss loops, and then we will go to a simple mini project, which is a simple calculator. And with that, we will end this video. Alright, so let's dive into the next section, that is variables and data types. Now programs can do more than just print text that we have just seen. They work with data. Now to store data, we use variables. A variable is like a labeled box where you can keep a piece of information. Think of it like a box where you store some information. Now C++ need to know what type of information you are storing. So here are the most important basic types that we have. Int, which stands for integers. These are for integers or whole numbers. That's like 5, -20, 100, and so on. Okay, no decimals, only whole numbers. Then we have double. Double is used for floating point numbers which have decimals. 3.14, minus 0.5 and so on. There is also a float data type which can be used, but double supports a larger range, so let's go with double. Then we have character or char. So this is used for single characters like A, B, question mark, and so on. And notice that each of the character is enclosed within a single quote. So when you are using single characters, we have to enclose them within single quotes. Then we have string. String is used for a sequence of characters or text. Now notice the double quotes that we use here. So for single characters, we use single quotes, and for a sequence of characters, we used double quotes. Then we have Boolean, which is represented as BOOL or bool. Now this is used for true and false values. Alright, so these are all different types of variables and we call them data type, the data type of a variable. Alright, now let's see them in action. Alright, now we come back to Replit, where I have pasted a sample code here in order to understand variables and data types. So here, as you see, we have included IOStream, which I already explained in the first step. Then we are using something called string here, include string. Now we need this header for making use of strings. That is why we include it separately. Okay, now coming to the main function, remember I told you that every program would have a main function. So this is the main function and the return type is integer. Now here we have the variable declaration and initialization. Now let's understand what they mean. So here I am declaring a variable called user age, which is of the type integer. Now this user age is any name that you can give to the variable. You can give any name. So I declare a variable called user age, and then it is of the type integer. That means this is like a box. The box is called user age and it can store integer values. And here I am initializing it to 25. So I say int user age equal to 25 and I end it with a semicolon. So what this does is it creates a box called user age and it can store integer values, and the value that is stored initially is 25. Okay, now I declare another variable called price. Now price is of the type double. The data type is double. That means it can store decimal values, and we initialize it to 19.99. So we create a box called price and it can store decimal values, and the value that is initially stored in it is 19.99. Then I declare a character variable called grade, and we assign the character A to it, or we initialize it with the character capital A. And as I already told you, whenever we are using single characters, they have to be enclosed within single quotes. So that is why these single quotes are there with this A. Okay, now I have another variable called username. It is of the type string. Now you would wonder why this std before this string variable. Now string is also a part of the std or the standard namespace. So that is why we have to mention this std before string. Okay, std followed by 2 colons. Okay, so it is username and we give the name code wizard to it. Alright, and you see that this is a string, and because it is a string, it is enclosed within double quotes. So whenever it is a single character, we use single quotes, and when it is a string, we use double quotes. Now we have another variable called is logged in, and it is of the type boolean or bool. Now boolean data type are the ones that can store boolean values. Boolean values means values like either true or false, 0 or 1. So it can have just 2 values. Now we want a variable to check if the user is logged in or not. So that variable is called is logged in. Now again I remind you, this name that you give here is up to you. You can give any name. What really matters is the data type that you use here, and then we assign it to true. So initially it is true. Okay, now let's see how to print these variables that we have just declared and initialized. Now in order to print, as I already told you, we have to make use of the cout statement. Now in order to make use of cout, we already said that cout is a part of the standard namespace. So std : cout, and then these angle brackets, and followed by this is the thing that will be displayed on the screen hard coded. So I want to say username : then I want to see the actual username, that is code wizard. So this part that you give here it is like the hard-coded value that you are writing on the console, and this username would come from the variable username that we declared and initialized here. Now let's see the structure of this. std cout, then we have this angle brackets, and here I am writing username within double quotes, which is the thing I want to print on the screen. Now after this I want to print a variable which is username. So here when I want to print a variable, I again have to use this angle brackets. So use this angle brackets and print the username which will come from this variable. Now after that I want to go to a new line. I want to print the next thing on the new line. So for that we use this endl. Endl is like end line or go to the next line. So this is also a part of the standard namespace. So that is why we put this std colon. Now next we want to print the age. So similarly I say std cout age, and then I want to print the variable age. So here when I'm going to print the variable, I have to make use of the angle bracket again, and after that I want to print a new line. For that again I need to use the angle bracket. So similarly we do it for price, grade and logged in. Now in price you can see I say price colon then dollar. So I want to display the price in dollar. So I want to say price dollar, and after this dollar symbol the price which will come from this variable would be displayed over here. Okay, now after printing all that I say return 0 because this main function has a return type integer, so we need to return an integer, so we are returning 0, and then we close the function with the curly brace here, and that ends our program. Okay, let's click on run and see if it is working as expected. Now see, username, this username that I printed came as it is, username colon, then this variable username is printed here. What was this variable username? It is over here. And what is the value assigned to it? Code wizard. So code wizard is printed over here. Similarly, age colon, then user age. What is user age? User age is 25. So 25 is printed here. Similarly, price, grade and logged in. Now logged in, you can see it printed 1 over here. So when it is true, it prints 1. And if it is false, it would print 0. Let's change it to false and see. False, and click on run. You can see it prints 0. So it's a Boolean value which toggles between true and false, that is 1 and 0. Okay, so with that we have got an idea of what are variables and data types. Now you can see that you have been using this std all the time, which is like a tedious process while writing your code. So in order to avoid this, there is a thing that you can do, and that is we come to this header portion and I will say using namespace std. Okay, so here you can see the AI part of it already tells you this allows you to use std cout and std endline without prefixing them with the std colon. Okay, now let's see. I have put this std. Now let's remove all the std colons. Okay, as you can see, I have removed all the std colon from all of this, and we have used using namespace std here. Let me run the program again and see if it is working as expected. Yes, it is working as expected. So in the following programs that we will be seeing, we will use this using namespace std in order to make writing our code even easier. Okay, so this is cool. We have understood how to use variables and data types. Now let's go to the next section, that is user inputs and operators. So what if we want the user to give us data? So in this program that we have seen, we saw that we were supplying the values for each of the variables. I already said that user age is 25. I said that price should be 19.99 and grade should be A, and so on. Now, what if I want the user to give me this input? I want to write a program in such a way that I ask the user to give me the input and I get the input from the user, and I want to print out that which the user gives me. So for that we use cin, which stands for console input or character input. So let's make a simple program that will ask the user for the user's age, and it will tell them how old they will be in 10 years. Alright, so here is our program that I have typed out for you. So again, we start with including our IO stream. Then we use the namespace std in order to avoid writing std colon all the time. And then we have our main function. Again, return type is integer. Now we declare a variable here called age, which is of the type integer. So it is like a box that we create, but it is empty for now. In the previous program, we were assigning a value for it, but here we have not assigned any value. Okay, so it's like an empty box that you can imagine. Now I want to display on the screen, please enter your age. I want to ask the user to enter their age. So I use the cout function followed by the angle brackets, and within double inverted commas, I say, please enter your age. Okay, then I now want to get the input from the user and store it in the variable called age. For that, I use the cin function. Now cin stands for console input or character input. You see how the angle brackets direction changed over here. The arrows, they go in the other way around. So in cout, it is pointing to the left, and in cin, it is pointing to the right. So after this angle brackets or arrows, I say age, which is the variable that we declared over here. So when the user enters an age from the keyboard, it will be stored in this variable called age. All right. Now we want to calculate what will be their age after 10 years. For that, I am using another variable called age in 10 years. Okay. I call it age in 10 years, which is also of the type integer. And I say it is equal to age plus 10. What is age? Age is the variable that we had here, which stores the age that the user enters from the keyboard, and to that I am adding 10 by using the plus operator over here, and we end with a semicolon. So age in 10 years equal to this age plus 10. Okay, so in this variable called age in 10 years, we have the age plus 10. Alright, now I want to display it all on the screen. So I use the cout function again, and we have these arrows, and then I say in 10 years you will be. So this sentence, this string, I want to print on the screen. For that, I put them in double inverted commas, and I say in 10 years you will be. Now next I want to print the actual age that they will be in 10 years. And where is that? That is stored in this age in 10 years. So as I'm going to print a variable here, I have to again make use of this angle brackets or these arrows. Okay, so age in 10 years. Now what did we print? In 10 years you will be that number, and I want to also print years old. So for example, if a user enters his age as 10, so I want to say in 10 years you will be 20 years old. So for that, I have to again print years old. This string has to be printed. So again, as I'm changing from variable to a hard-coded text here again, I again have to make use of the angle brackets, and I have to put this hard-coded string inside these double quotes. Okay, and I want to send my cursor to a new line. So for that, I'm using end line, ENDL, and for that also we need to use this angle brackets. Okay, that's it. We end the program there by returning 0. So main function has a return type of integer, so we return an integer 0. Alright, now let's run this and see if it is working as expected. Now you see, when I run the program, it says please enter your age. Now it is waiting for us to supply the input. Okay, this cin is waiting for us to get the input. So let me write the age as 21. Okay, and I press enter on the keyboard. Now when I press enter on the keyboard, it says in 10 years you will be 31 years old. So 21 was this age that we got, and then to that age we added 10 and we stored it in age in 10 years, and it displayed in 10 years you will be age in 10 years, which is 21 plus 10, that is 31 years old. So that is how we can take input from the user, and also you have seen how to make use of the operator, that is the plus operator. Similarly, you can make use of other operators as well. Let's try a few of them. Okay, so here I have included a few more operator examples in order to just show it to you. I've just extended the code here. Let's just keep whatever we had till here, and here I am declaring two more variables called a and b, both of type integers, and a I am assigning the value 10, and to b I am assigning the value 3. Now I say cout 10 minus 3 equal to. So this is a hard-coded value that I'm going to print, 10 minus 3 equal to. Now I am going to make use of the operator here. This is where the actual operation takes place. Now since we are going to make use of an operator or operation here, we have to make use of the angle brackets, and within the angle brackets we write a minus b. Now a minus b would mean 10 minus 3, and that result will be displayed over here, and then it will go to a new line. So this should show 7. Now 10 divided by 3, see out, 10 divided by 3 is equal to a, this is the division operator, a divided by b. This should show 3 because this is an integer division. We said that a and b are integers. So when you divide two integers, the result that you get will just be the quotient. You will not see any decimal values. It will just be the quotient that you will see. Now 10 into 3, see out, 10 into 3, it should show you 30. So a into b, this is where the operation is taking place, a into b. So it will show you 30 here. And 10 modulo 3, modulo is used to get the remainder of a division. So if you divide 10 by 3, the remainder is 1. So that remainder will be shown here. Okay, let us run and see if it is working as expected. Okay, that h part is still there. Let's just write anything there. Okay, now see, 10 minus 3 equal to 7, 10 divided by 3 equal to 3, 10 into 3 equal to 30, and 10 modulo 3 is equal to 1. So we see that this is how we can make use of operators in C++. Now you must have noticed another thing. I've written few things here. This will show 7, this will show 3, this will show 30, and also we have written some things in between which are shown in this green color, which never got displayed anywhere in the output. What are these? These are known as comments. Comments are some things that we use to just specify something on the code, but the compiler will not run or will not take that into account. So if you want to just write something in your code which when other people read will make them understand something, then you can use comments. So comments in C++ are written using this 2 slashes. So when you put these 2 slashes and write anything after that, the compiler ignores that part. Okay, so this one, this get input, notice the arrows, and even all this and all this are known as comments. Okay, so with that, I hope you have understood what are user inputs, how to take user input, and also how to make use of operators in C++, and also you have understood what are comments. Alright, now let's come to the next section, that is conditional logic. Now this is a really powerful stuff. What is this? This is used for making decisions. So let's say that we want to make a decision. We want to say that if something is this way, I want to do this. If something is in some other way, I want to do something else. Now, in order to do this, we use the if, else if, and else statements in C++. The syntax is simple. We say if, and then within parentheses, we write a condition. And if the condition is true, then within curly braces, we write the code that has to be executed if that condition is true. Okay, let's take an example and try to understand this completely. Alright, so here I have made a program where we will ask the user to enter their age, and the user's age will be taken, and then if the user's age is greater than or equal to 18 years, then we want to display on the screen you are an adult. And if the age is less than 18, then we want to say you are not an adult. And if he enters some invalid age, like for example a negative number, we want to say that that is not a valid age. Okay, so here is a program for that. Starts with our IO stream and using namespace std. You already know what that means. And we come to the main function which has a return type integer. And now let's go into the function. Okay, so we declare a variable called age of the type integer, and we ask the user to enter the age using our cout. Now cout, enter your age, and using cin, we take that input from the user and store it to the variable called age, which we just declared over here. Now here comes the interesting part, the conditional logic. Now the conditional logic is done using this if statement. If, we say if if, and within parentheses we have to put the condition. What is the condition? If age, what is age? Age is this variable where age is stored, that is given by the user. If age is greater than or equal to 18. Now this is a comparison operator, greater than or equal to. So it checks whether this age that the user has entered is greater than or equal to 18. Now if this is true, whatever is there inside this curly braces will be executed. So this curly braces belongs to this if statement. So if this is true, we are printing you are an adult using the cout statement. Cout, you are an adult, and end line. That means go to the new line. Now, if this is not true, then it would come to the next part, that is else if. If this condition was not true, it would come to this else if part, and it will check if this condition is true or not. Now in else if, what do we write? If age is less than or equal to 0. Now what does this mean? This means that the user has entered an invalid age. If the age is less than or equal to 0 means either he has entered his age as 0 or as a negative number. So that means it is an invalid age. So there we print that is not a valid age using the cout statement. Now this happens if this is not true. Now what if this is also not true? If this is also not true, it would go to the final else statement and it will print you are not an adult. So when would it come to this else? It would come only if these two are false. So we will come to this else part only when these two conditions fail, and we print you are not an adult. Okay, now if any of the condition was true, let's say if this was true, then we print you are an adult, and then it would break from this conditional statement. It will not go to this else if and else part. And if this was false, it would come to this part, check it, and if it is true, it would print this, and it will not come to this else part. That is how it works. Let us run this and see if it is working as expected, and we will make it clearer. Let me run the program again. This was from the old program that we had. Okay, it says enter your age. Let me enter my age as 19 and I press enter, and it says you are an adult. So what happened here? Enter your age came from this cout, and I supplied my age as 19. So cin took my age and put it in this age variable. Now it came to the conditional logic and it checked if my age is greater than or equal to 18. Was it? Yes, because I entered 19. This condition is true. So because this condition was true, this statement got printed and it did not come to the else if or the else part. Okay, now let's run this program again and let's give a different age. Now let me say my age is 15. Now when I press enter, it says you are not an adult. Now here what happened? It checked the age here. It checked if age is greater than or equal to 18. No, false, because age is 15. So it came to the else if part and it checked if age is less than or equal to 0. Is the age less than or equal to 0? No, that is also false. So it came to the else part and printed you are not an adult. Both these conditions failed and it came to the else part and printed you are not an adult. Now let's run this program again and let me enter my age as -6. Okay, now what happened? When I entered my age as -6, it checked if age is greater than or equal to 18. It is not true, so this thing didn't get printed, and it came to the else if part and checked if age is less than or equal to 0. Yes, the age is less than 0. It is -6. So it printed that is not a valid age and it did not come to the else part. Whenever a condition is true, the statement inside the curly braces of that condition gets printed and the others will not be executed. Okay, so that is how the conditional statements work. So here for comparison, you can see we have used comparison operators like greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and so on. So these are the other comparison operators that you can use in C++. We have equal to, equal to, equal to, equal to, two equal to symbols. If you see, it means you are trying to check if two values are equal. Okay, so if you have two values, let's say A and B, and you want to check if A is equal to B, then you will write A equal to B, which will check if A is equal to B. So the single equal to is used for assignment. Like for example, in the previous programs and all, we have assigned some values. Like if I say here, let's say I want to put my age equal to 32. So this is an assignment operator. This single equal to is an assignment operator. So don't confuse equal to and double equal to. Now another one we have is exclamation mark equal to, which stands for not equal to. So if you want to check if two values are not equal, so let's say we have A and B and I want to check if A is not equal to B. So I would write A not equal to B. Okay, this is the comparison operator for that. Then we have greater than, we have less than, we have greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So what we used here was greater than or equal to. If I say greater than or equal to, it will check if it is greater than, and also if it is, it will check if it is equal to. So here, even if the age is equal to 18, then this condition would be true. Now if I want to check only if age is greater than 18, I don't want 18 as the value. I want it to be greater than 18. Then I would use greater than. So that is the difference between greater than equal to and less than equal to. So that is a difference between greater than equal to and just greater than. Okay. So those are the comparison operators that you have in C++. So you can modify this program and you can think about some own logic of yours and try it out and play around with the comparison operators and conditional logic which you have studied here. Alright, with that I hope you have understood what is conditional logic and how to make use of comparison operators in C++. Okay, now let's come to the next section, that is loops. Now what are loops? What if you want to do something over and over again? You want to repeat something, repeatedly do something. For that we use something known as loop in C++. And there are two types of loops. One is while loop and another one is for loop. So let us understand both these loops and take some examples. Okay, a while loop runs while a condition is true. That means a while loop would check for a condition, and as long as the condition is true, it would keep running again and again. Let's understand this using this program, and also we'll understand its syntax. So here we have a program, again starting with our IOStream and namespace std, and we have our main function, and inside the main function I have declared a variable called I, which is of the type integer, and I have assigned the value 1 to it. So we have initialized the variable I with the integer 1. Now here is our loop, while, and then within parenthesis is the condition. You write while and within parenthesis is the condition that it is going to check. And what is the condition? The condition says I less than or equal to 5. Now what does this mean? It is going to check if I is less than or equal to 5, and as long as I is less than or equal to 5, whatever is there inside these curly braces would be executed again and again. So what is there inside this curly braces? This curly braces belongs to the while loop. Okay. So inside this curly braces we have a cout statement which is going to print this is loop number and the variable I. This is loop number, and since I'm going to print the variable I have to use the angle brackets again and say I, and then I want to give a new line. So for that again I use angle brackets and I say end line. So what will happen in the first time? I is equal to 1. Okay. So while condition checks, is I less than or equal to 5? What is I? I is initially 1. Is 1 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is true. So since it is true, it will print this is loop number I. What is I? 1. So it will print this is loop number 1. Okay. Then in the next line, what is it doing? It says I equal to I plus 1. That means we are incrementing or increasing the value of I by 1. So I was 1 initially. So the new value of I would be I equal to I, that is 1 plus 1. So I will now become 2. Now the new value of I is 2. Now when it is 2, what happens? Again, the while condition will check if the condition is true or not. What does the condition say? Is I less than or equal to 5? What is the value of I now? The value of I is now 2. Is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is true. So again it will print this is loop number I. Now the value of I is 2. So it would print this is loop number 2 and go to a new line. And again it is going to increase the value of I by 1. So I's value is now 2. 2 plus 1, I now becomes 3. Now it will again check this condition. Is 3 less than or equal to 5? It is true. So again it will print this is loop number 3. So this will go on again and again, and a time would come when I would become 5. So when I is equal to 5, what happens? It will check is 5 less than or equal to 5. Equal to is also there, remember. So that condition is also true. So it would print this is loop number 5. Now after that what happens? I will now become 6. I equal to I plus 1. So 5 plus 1 equal to 6. Now when it becomes 6, what happens? It comes and checks this condition again. Now it checks is 6 less than or equal to 5? No, the condition is now false. Now when the condition is false, it will break from this while loop and will come out of the loop. And when we come out of the loop, there is nothing else. It is just return 0. So that means the program ends over there. Let's run it. You see it prints this is loop number 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and the moment it became 5, Here I becomes 6 and the condition is false now, so the loop stops running. So a loop is something that will keep on running as long as a particular condition is true, and when it is false it will stop running. So that is how the while loop works. Now let's come to the next one, that is a for loop. A for loop is great when you know exactly how many times you want to loop, and it bundles the setup, the condition and update all in one. Let's understand this with the help of a code. Alright, now let's come to for loop. So in this example, we are going to explain how for loop works and also try to understand its syntax. Okay, so we have the IOStream and namespace std, then we have our main function, and here we have a for loop. So for loop also is something that is going to run again and again until a condition is true, and when the condition becomes false, it will stop running. Let's see. You start off by typing for, and within this parenthesis, there are a few things that you have to type. Let's see what they are. First of all, there is an initialization. I take a variable I and I initialize it to 1, and I also say it is of the type integer. So the declaration of the variable and its initialization happens inside the for loop itself. So in case of while, we saw that we were declaring and initializing the value of I outside the loop in the beginning, but here it happens inside the for loop itself. And remember, this is going to happen only one time. This is a one-time thing. int I equal to 1. This declaration and assignment will happen only once. And now this I is known as the iterator, or this is the variable that we are going to use to loop over something. So that is why we can call it an iterator. So we have I equal to 1. Now this is the condition that it is going to check. I less than or equal to 5. It is going to check if I is less than or equal to 5. And then we have the next thing, that is the increment operator, I++. So we are going to increase the value of I by 1 after each iteration. And you see the initialization, the condition and this increment, they are separated using semicolon within the for loop itself. So take a look at this nicely and understand the syntax. So I repeat once more. First we have the initialization, we have the condition, and then we have the increment. This can also be a decrement if you want to run the loop in that way, that you can explore later. Okay, let's see how this works. Now inside the for loop, in this curly braces, the statement that is going to be executed is, it's a cout statement that says this is for loop number and then I. Now I is a variable, so in order to display I in cout, I have to make use of this angle bracket again, like we have been doing. Similarly for the end line. Alright, now let's see how the loop works. Initially we declare I and initialize it to 1, so I is equal to 1. Now it will check the condition, is I less than or equal to 5. Is 1 less than or equal to 5? Condition is true. So when the condition is true, what it will do is it will come and print this. Okay, this will be executed. So it will print this is for loop number I, that is for loop number 1. And after this, the increment happens. Okay, I++ happens. So I++ is similar as I equal to I plus 1. It is just adding 1 to it. Okay, so increment happens. So I becomes 2 now. Now when I becomes 2, what happens? It will again check the condition. It will check the condition, is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes, condition is true. So when condition is true, what happens? It will print this line again. This is for loop number 2. Then what happens? Then the increment happens. So 2 now becomes 3. Now is 3 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is true. So it will print this. This is for loop number 3 again. Similarly, it will go for 4, then it will go to 5. Now when it is 5, what happens? The condition checks, is I less than or equal to 5? Yes, equal to is also there. So yes, it is true. So it will print this and it will say this is for loop number 5. Now after that, the increment happens and I now becomes 6. Now when I becomes 6, what happens? The condition checks, is 6 less than or equal to 5? No, the condition now becomes false. Now when the condition becomes false, it will not execute what is there inside the for loop statement, and it will come out of the for loop and continue with the rest of the code, which is return 0. That means our program ends over there. Okay, let's run this and see. Yes, working as expected. This is for loop number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So always remember, in for loop, the assignment or the initialization happens just one time, then the condition is checked, and if the condition is true, the statement is executed which is there inside the for loop, and then the increment happens. After that, again the condition is checked. If it is true, the statement is executed, again the increment happens, and the condition is checked. If it is true, the statement is executed. If it is not, it comes out of the for loop. So that is how for loop works. So we see that while loop and for loop, both they are doing the same thing. They are just repeatedly doing something again and again until a condition fails. But you'll find that for loops are extremely common for this kind of counting tasks, and mostly you will be using for loops for many kind of looping operations in C++. Alright, so we have now covered most of the basic things that you need to know in order to write your first few C++ programs as a beginner. So let's just recap what we did. We have seen how to use this Replit compiler, of course, and we have written our first program, Hello World. Then we have seen how to use variables and data types. We have also seen how to take user input and make use of operators in C++. Then we have also seen how to use conditional logic, the if, else if, and else statements. And then we have also seen loops, and we see how to use while loops and for loops. Okay, now let us combine all these things that we have learned and make a simple mini project, which is a simple calculator. Let's see how we can put all that we have studied into practice in this simple calculator project. Alright, so here I have typed out the code for our simple calculator, and let's break it down into simple steps and understand everything one by one, putting into practice whatever we have learned so far in this video. Okay, so we start with our IO stream and using namespace std, you know what that means. And then we have our main function, which has a return type integer. Now inside the main function, you see the main function begins here. I am declaring two variables called num1 and num2 of the type double. Now recall what is double. Double is a data type that is used for storing decimal values. So it is a calculator, so definitely it should support decimal values as well. So that is why we use double. Okay, so we have two variables num1 comma num2. This is another way in which you can declare. Instead of writing double num1 semicolon and again double num2 semicolon, you can write double num1 num2. So as long as they are of the same data type, you can declare variables like this by using comma in between. Now we declare another variable called op, which is of the character type. So I am declaring a character called op, and what is this used for? This is used for storing the operator that the user will enter. Num1 and num2 are the two numbers that the users would enter, and we are going to perform some operation on them. So in order to store the operator that the user inputs, we are going to make use of the op variable. So num1 has the first value that the user enters, num2 will have the second value that the user enters, op will store the operator that the user enters. So we are going to support addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. If you want, you can extend it by putting modulo as well, but we will stick to these four operators for now. Okay, now you see I'm making use of a while loop here. Now why this while loop over here? And you see the condition says 1. In the examples that we saw, there was a condition like is a greater than or equal to something and so on. But here I have just written while 1. Now what does while 1 means? While 1 means the condition is always true. 1 signifies that the condition is always true. That means I want a loop that will keep on running again and again and again, and I will give it a condition at the end and tell it to break. So why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I don't want my calculator project to run only one time. I want this to run multiple times. The user supplies two values, performs some operation, and after that is done, we should give them the option to continue with other operations again. Right? I don't want it to run just one time. It should run any number of times that the user wants. And when the user doesn't want to run it, then we will break from this loop, and that we will see at the end. So just understand now, whatever is there inside this while loop, they will keep running again and again because this condition 1 says that this is always true. Okay, now what is happening inside the while loop? Let's see. See out. I am printing on the screen, enter the first number. okay, using our cout that we have discussed. So we see within double quotations, I say enter the first number semicolon, then we have to accept or take that input from the user. So for that I say C in num1. So whatever is the first number the user enters, that we store in the variable called num1. Next, I want to ask the user to enter the operator that he wants to make use of. Now for operator, I again say cout enter an operator, and I tell him that these are the 4 operators that we are supporting in our simple and humble calculator, and then we are taking the input into the character variable called OP. Okay, so plus, minus, multiplication, division, when it is entered from the keyboard, they are treated as characters, not integers or double or anything. So that is why we have make use of OP, which is a character variable that we have declared. So whatever the user enters as the operator will be stored in this character variable called OP. Now we'll ask the user to enter the second number. We got the first number, the operator. Now the second number on which we want to perform the operation. For that I say enter the second number, and we take the input using cin, and we store that second number into the variable called num2. Now I want to perform the operations and store the result somewhere. For that I need another variable. I need another box in order to store the result of the operation, whether it is addition, subtraction, or whatever it may be. So I say double result. Okay, I declare a variable called result, and it is of the type double. Why double? Because anyway our num1 and num2 are double type variables, so the result also will be double. Okay, now we are going to make use of the conditional logic that we studied. If, else if, and else. Now here is a logic that we are going to apply. We are going to check what is the operator that the user entered, and based on that we are going to perform the operation. Okay, so here first I'm going to check if the operator that the user entered is plus. So for that I use a if statement, if, and within parenthesis OP, which is the operator, equal to plus. That means it is going to check if the operator is plus. Now remember that this OP is a character, it is going to have a single character, so that is why when we check it with some other character, we have to make use of single quotes here. So that is why plus is enclosed within single quotes. Now if the operator equal to plus, then what we have to do? We have to add both the numbers. So we add num1 and num2, and we store it into the variable called result, which we declared here. So result equal to num1 plus num2, and then we are printing out cout result is result. Then we are going to print out the variable result which we got here. So that's why this angle bracket again, result. Okay, now what if the user's input was not plus? We have to check if it is the next operator, that is minus. So if this is not true, it will come and check here. So for that we use else if. Else if operator equal to minus. So we are checking if the user has entered the operator as minus. So if it is minus, we want to subtract the two numbers. So result equal to num1 minus num2, and again we print result. So this else if has this much statements. So if was from here till here, and this else if was from here to here. So the statements for each of the if, else if, and else, they are inside the curly braces that follow that. Okay, now let's say both of these are false, and then user has entered multiplication. So else if OP equal to multiplication, then result equals to num1 into num2, and we again print the result variable here. Coming to the next one, we are checking if the user has entered a division operator. Now if it is division operator, oh, you see that there is something different happening here. Inside this else if, I have another if else. Now this is what we called a nested if else. Okay, a nested condition. That means inside this we are checking for something else again. So if this condition is true, that means if the user has entered a division operation, then inside it we are again checking for something else. What are we checking? If num2 is not equal to 0. Okay, if num2 is not equal to 0. Why are we checking this? We know that we are not allowed to divide any number by 0. Division by 0 would result in an error. So we are checking that the second number that the user entered is not 0. So if it is not 0, that means it is fine. you can just divide num1 by num2 and store it in result, and we just print the result as usual. But if this condition is not true, what does it mean? If this condition is not true means num2 is equal to 0. And if it is equal to 0 means it will come to this else part. Okay, this else part signifies that num2 is equal to 0. And then we print an error message to the user saying that error, division by 0 is not allowed. Okay, so this is called a nested if else statement. Inside this else if, we are having another if else. So it is nested within this. Okay, now we finish this else if, and there is another final else over here. So we checked if the operator is plus, or if it is minus, or multiplication, or division. Now these are the 4 operators that we are going to support in our calculator. Now what if the user enters something which are not in these 4? Then we come to this else and say that invalid operator. So whatever the user enters apart from what we support, that is plus, minus, multiplication, and division, then we print it is an invalid operator. Okay, so this was the statement for this else. Okay, now like I said in the very beginning, the user enters a number, an operator, and another number, and then we perform the calculation and we give the result. Now we also want to ask the user if he wants to continue, right? A calculator should allow the user to continue doing calculations for other numbers as well. So that is why I ask here, do you want to perform another calculation? Yes or no. He can either enter y or n. And for taking this input, I need another variable. So I call it choice. So I have a character variable called choice in order to store the user's choice, whether it is y or n. And we take the input from the user C in choice. Okay, whatever user enters, it will be stored in choice. Now I check if choice is not equal to y and choice is not equal to capital Y. Now what does this mean? Let's look at this. We are using another conditional statement over here. If the choice that the user entered is not equal to small y and not equal to capital Y, what does it mean? He has entered either n or some other letters. Okay, that means break from the loop. Which loop? This while loop. This while loop will keep on running again and again and again because the condition is always true. But if this choice here is not equal to small y or capital Y, I am going to break from the loop. So we ask the user, do you want to continue or do you want to perform another calculation? If he says yes, okay, if he enters y, so this condition becomes false, right? This condition will be false. Why will it be false? This condition is true only when it is not equal to y. So if he enters y means this condition is false, and if this condition is false, this break will not be executed. Break is used to break from the loop. So this break will not be executed. And if this break is not executed, what happens? We just come to a new line and this while will continue again, and it will again ask the user to enter first number, enter operator, enter second number, and it will go on again and again. And at the end, it will again ask the user, do you want to perform another calculation? If he says n or if he says any other character, then this condition becomes true. Why? Because n is not equal to small y or capital Y. So that time we will break out from the loop and the program will end. Okay, and we return 0. Let's run this and try to understand if this works. And remember another thing, here I have used a double AND. Now what does this double AND means? We are checking for two conditions here. If choice is not equal to small y or capital Y, because from the keyboard he can either enter small y or capital Y, both of which should be treated as a valid choice. So that is why this is also one condition, this is also another condition, and both of them should be true. That is why we use this and. So 2 ampersand means it is an AND operator. Alright, let me run this and see if it is working as expected. Let me drag this a bit and click on run. Okay, enter the first number. I enter 4. So 4 will be stored in num1. Enter. Now it says enter the operator. Enter an operator. Let me say plus. And I press enter and it asks me to enter the second number. Let me say 10. And now let me press enter. Now it says result equal to 14. So what happened? Num1 is 4, operator is plus, num2 is 10. and it came to the conditional logic. It checked if the operator is plus. Yes, it was plus. So what happened? It added num1 and num2, stored it in result, and it printed the result over here. So 14 is printed. Now, since this condition was true, all of this else if, else, and all these things did not get executed, right? And it came to this final part which says, do you want to perform another calculation? And I'm right here. Do you want to perform another calculation? Yes or no? So let me say yes. I press small y on the keyboard and I press enter. Now when I press, what happened here? It checked if the choice is not equal to small y or not equal to capital Y. So was it? No. My choice was actually small y. And this break will only be executed if it was not equal to small y. So since it was equal to small y, this break statement didn't get executed. So it came to the beginning of the loop again, and it is asking me to enter the first number again. So let me enter the first number again now, 5. So let's say I want to perform division now. So I enter the division operator and I press enter the second number. Let me enter 0 here and see what happens. Okay, now it says error, division by 0 is not allowed. So if you remember, we had that condition as a nested if else. So here my first number is 5, num1 is 5, then num2 is 0, and then what is the operator? The operator is division. So it checked here if OP is equal to plus. No, it is not. So it came to else if. Is OP equal to minus? No. So it came to the next one. Is OP equal to multiplication? No. So it came to the next one. Is OP equal to division? Yes. Now it is true. So again it checked if num2 is not equal to 0. Was num2 equal to 0? Yes, num2 was equal to 0. So this thing didn't get executed because num2 was equal to 0. This will only get executed if num2 is not equal to 0. So that is why it came to the else part and said error by division is not allowed. Okay, now let me press Y again. Let me try capital Y. Yeah, capital Y also works. Now enter the first number. Let me enter 5 and let me enter the operator now. For operator, let me enter modulo now. Now remember, modulo is not supported. So next, let me say 6. Now it says invalid operator because the only operation that we support are plus, minus, multiplication, division. So this plus condition failed, this minus failed, multiplication failed, division failed. So it came to the final else which says invalid operator. Okay, so let's do one more final. Let's say yes, and let's say 45, and I want to multiply it by 10 and 450. Yes, it is correct. Now let's say that I want to stop now. So when it asks me, do you want to perform another calculation? I will say N, and when I press enter, the program terminates and it does not continue anymore. So here we have a complete working calculator, simple and humble calculator that supports 4 operations, that is plus, minus, multiplication and division. And here, in order to accomplish this, we have made use of the conditional logic. We have also made use of taking user input, and we have also made use of the loop, the while loop, and we have also seen how to make use of different variables with different data types and so on. Alright, so that is approximately 60 minutes, I believe. Let's just recap what you have accomplished. You have set up a coding environment using the Replit online compiler. You have written your first program. You have learned about variables. You have taken user input, performed calculations, used conditional logic to make decisions, and used loops to repeat actions. And then you combined all of that to build a working calculator. Well, that's a huge amount to learn in 1 hour, and you did it. Now, C++ is a massive language. We haven't talked about functions, classes, object-oriented programming, pointers, memory management, and so on. Those are the next steps of your journey. But the point of today was to get you started, to demystify the language, and to show you that you can write code that does things. So as your next step, try to modify the project, try to maybe add another operator like modulo in your calculator, keep experimenting and keep building. So I hope you are clear with what we have learned today, and I hope I have helped you to get started with C++ programming as a beginner. So thank you so much for learning with me today. Happy coding, and see you in another video.